Here we are, back once again, Renegade Masters. We got a few gang up in the chat early. It is myself, Stish, and Quinny, as always. M Product Podcast, episode 63. People are saying when Twitch rates. That'd be we're getting to that point now on Twitch, aren't we? I think we're building up a nice little following here, Quinny. Even though we're here today, 2 days early, for those of you listening in the future, it's Tuesday afternoon this week. Quinny and I both got endeavours this weekend to partake in, so we've pushed proceedings forward a couple of days. Quinny, great to see you sooner rather than later this week round. How has your game week gone? Did you get any end products to report over the weekend's game week?
No, de nada. It's been no end product at the moment. Still on this kind of summer barren run of trying to scrape by, getting some bits and pieces, and I think ever since the under 21 Euros stopped, the bits and pieces have kind of dried up, as it were. So no, absolutely diddly squat for me, Stish. But you were saying to me before we come on, quite opportune timing. Normally we go kind of week to week, but I'm actually catching you at the back end of a game week, and the team you were rolling out at the weekend is bringing it home.
It's come good, yeah. I think I was sceptical about whether or not we could bring it home, but looking at how we got on now, did manage to finish 7th in All-Star Super Rare, which is great because you get their little ETH reward there as well. So, yeah, super happy with that. Be excited to see what comes of the reward opening a bit later on today. And also managed to stay within the rewards in Asia. Asia Rare as well. So where all of the scores start coming in a little bit late in Asia at the moment with the Korean sort of backlog of scores. So I did find myself just slowly getting knocked back as each of those fixtures came in. I was only really waiting for one of them myself in that lineup. So I think I was sat 7th for a while with a tier 2, and I've managed to knock back, but still managed to hold on for a tier 3. So I've got a tier 3 super and a tier 3 rare to come a little bit later on today. Very excited about that. Fingers crossed. I think I'm starting to realise that my defensive options are my weakness in super rare at the moment. So obviously I'm not going to win a goalkeeper at tier 3. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I think goalkeepers and defenders is what I'd like to win at the moment. I've won so many forward cards. I could definitely do with some options in there in defence. But yeah, super buzzing about that. And yeah, I've managed to, obviously, today we've been getting our midweek teams out. Have you got much rolling in the midweek? It's kind of a weird mixture of fixtures. Obviously, we got the Leagues Cup, which wasn't too heavy on rotation last week, was it? Depending on what teams you roll players from. But yeah, did you manage to get anything interesting out for the midweeks, Quinny?
Well, I actually brought a card in for the midweek, which is very unusual for me, and it was one of those ones where it kind of ticked a few boxes. But as you probably know, the latest to join the red and the blue X Brigade from MLS was Gabby Perea, leaving NYC to go play in Dubai. I think it's not even Saudi's away too. And would you call it? So I needed another forward card for this week, and I thought, is there any NYC cards from this season? I didn't get a card that I've not got, basically, that I could get cheap as chips and fill a team out in this Leagues Cup thing and try and get a 220 or a 240 effort. I think it was a 240 effort to be a full 5-man. And Pellegrini, who's a forward card, has been playing a lot more since generally when there's less competition there. So I managed to trade a reward I got about a month ago, a Jonas David, the defender for Hamburg. I got him, and I said not even that long ago. But I basically managed to trade him in a tenner for this Pellegrini forward card, and he's went straight into the team this week. So I've got 2 5-man efforts going out.
Oh, nice.
All-Star Rare. And I've got 3, actually. I've got All-Star Rare, I've got Cap 240 and Cap 220. And what I did with 220 Stish is, because Barraza, I watched NYC lose 1-0 to Atlas, so I watched the highlights. And Barraza's the goal that they concede, man, if it was me, I'd be looking at him and saying, goalkeeper, save that, mate. You're benched. So I'm playing Rare Barraza, but I'm playing limited freeze in 220. Is a little kind of... So I've got 3 teams out, but one will die.
That's a great little strategy, though. I've never really thought about that, where, normally when you pick up that backup goalkeeper, you do it in the same scarcity. But now with the option of, you know, like 220 running a limited card in there, that's a really nice little strategy. I've never thought about that, but having the backup goalkeeper in a different scarcity, especially for 220, it's quite a genius little move. That never really thought about it. So yeah, nice one for that, Quinny. I might be in the market myself after we finish this. Shout out Harry Trades in the chat. Good to see you, Harry. Quinny, I saw your tweet actually talking about Harry about that. It was a tweet that went out from the Saudi leagues, wasn't there? About they'd like kind of like trying to get players over to come and play in the lower leagues to kind of like build up the, you know, the base structure of their divisions and get some of that talent over there with good pay, you know, all that, which I'm sure comes with a move to Saudi Arabia if you're playing football at the moment. And yeah, Harry, get your highlight reel over, mate. You never know. He could be seeing you line up next to Ronaldo in a few seasons' time. Who knows?
But, the Saudi Cup, you know, the FA Cup equivalent, where
yeah. T-shirt swapping. Oh, that'd be a dream, mate. An absolute dream. So hey, it's good to have you in the chat. Glenn Hoddle in the chat as well, which is probably my favourite football/crypto username in the space. Glenn Hoddle.
Actually, I was going to come back to you on the Harry thing. I was going to say, see the thing when I seen that post, one of the things that did cross my mind is like, I know how, like, let's just say grassroots, like the low levels of like British football can be. The third tier of Saudi Arabia, what is that? Is that a hotel? Is that a yacht club? Is that the ball? Is that the polo club? You know, like who's running the third division team? You know, because like there's not that many places by all accounts. It's just a couple of big cities, and then, you know, some land in between.
Front staff in it, all the bar staff.
It's not like there's wee villages, you know. It's not like, oh, there's a wee village that it's just over here and a wee village over there. So that's what I thought when I seen that post. I'm like, where did these teams come from? You know, because
that's it. He's got the Welsh Cup this weekend, so I mean, they're similar. It's probably a similar standard to what he's got this coming up this weekend. But yeah, a bit of warmer climate, probably a bit more money. It's got to be a bit of potential there, isn't there? I think if I was 15 years younger and could actually play football, I'd probably be jumping at that. But I'll have to make do with scouting on Sorare in the meantime. But the last time we spoke, Quinny, we got quite deep into all of the meat of that Sorare roadmap update, didn't we? And you know, today, I know, Quinny, you've managed to get your teeth into the latest kind of episode of that update, which featured Dan from Sorare jumping on the Sorare Data Office Hours podcast with Maxim and Laird. And that was probably from now, maybe 3 hours ago, I think. I was out shopping, so I couldn't watch it live. But what did you make of that update? I know you've probably seen a lot more of it than I have. I only caught like the first sort of 15 minutes of it before I had to start coming in here and setting up for the live stream. But we've got Laird in the chat as well, so we definitely start leaning on him for some extra insight into what everyone's made of the update thus far. What did you make of it, Quinny?
I thought both Laird and Max, I know you've not caught it yet, Stish, but you'll see this when you watch it. Both of them did a really good cop, bad cop effort on Dan in terms of like giving him nice quick, you know, Laird would, you know, like, oh, like, what do you think about fitness? You know, what do you think about this? And have a nice week. And then Maxie would be like, okay, so Dan, if you really want to do it, and Max would, like, you know, give him a bit of a grilling, sending him into the work chats on WhatsApp to go get answers for him and stuff, you know. So it was a good watch. The guys did a great job of it. Thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And I don't know, I had a few good kind of take homes from it. And from me, when I'm listening to this stuff or when I'm reading any of these announcements, I'm always trying to read in between the lines. I'm trying to see, you know, what is the kind of direction this is meant to be pulling us towards, or, you know, how will this flesh out on the leaderboard? What impact will this have on me and the teams I've got and all that kind of stuff? And I don't know, I get a real sense of, like, for a lot of the questions and answers that were given around fitness, XP, collection bonus, etc., it does seem to be that they've got a really nice kind of palette now of different, a different range of XPs. So when you listen to the show, you'll probably get this same kind of feeling as well, right? But quite clearly, we know this already, right? But particularly for the lower scarcities, collection bonus can be bought on the market. XP bonus can be bought on the market. They kind of go hand in hand. If you're buying cards off the market, your collection bonus is probably going to be pretty good. And XP and fitness are much more, time-based, and care and attention to detail and decision-making kind of driven cycles. And it feels like we've always had this kind of pendulum swing in the community and on the leaderboards for, oh no, you've got to be really clever with what cards you play to win. You need to know the new smasher coming up and get the super rare quickly, to then, oh no, you need to have big power stacks, to then back to, oh no, you need to get the best value cards, to then being back to, oh, you need big collection bonuses. And now it's probably going to land somewhere kind of in the middle, that depending on what kind of blend of the game that you're messing about with, you won't feel as marginalized compared to the leaderboard, if you know what I mean. Like, I've got a feeling that guys that'll have like big collection bonuses on tons of cards and all the rest of it as well, there might be a wee bit more room for them letting, let's say, a 7% fitness card go on. But for a guy that doesn't get collection bonus on anything, they'll make sure their cards are 10 fitness every week, if you get me. So if you've got the wallet, you've got something going, and if you've got the time, you've got a bit of a leveler. And it feels like that was a real kind of sentiment I kind of took from the answers and everything that was kind of given,
The more I've been thinking about our chat last week and what I made of, particularly of the fitness, obviously I think we've got the collection bonus and stuff like that there, but they kind of mentioned in their update how this was to help build the longevity of the product. Obviously, as they get more people onboarded, the likelihood of people having very similar lineups at the top end of the leaderboard, you're going to need those little percentages slightly different between people because of fitness or collection bonus, and I think that over time you'll start to see why they've done it. But one thing it did make me think was, as you play each scarcity level, obviously you're playing against, in limited, maybe up to, let's say, like there's 5,000 other people that could have the same card that you've got. In rare, you might be playing against a couple hundred, maybe 300 people that have got that card as well. Super rare, you might be playing against a dozen to like 30 people. And then in unique, you might be unfortunate enough to play against 3 people who've got the same card as you at this moment in time. So I think it makes me wonder, players at whatever end of the spectrum they are, I feel like if you are a heavy hitting limited manager, like if you're the limited manager who has all the top collection bonus, all the big stacks, all of the, one of those managers who's got a huge limited gallery that on any given week can roll out a Bayern stack or roll out a PSG based on who's got the fixtures where, etc. Those people are really going to need their bonuses and their fitness to be like top, because they're likely to be playing against another manager who has the same, if not a very close lineup to them. Whereas you get to unique, you're probably not going to be that worried about your players got like minus 1.6% based off of like their fitness, because there's only 2 other managers who've got that card, and they're not going to have the same lineup. They're going to have that card with probably 4 different players. Obviously in limited, there could be at least 10, 15, 20 managers at the top on any given game week who've just rolled out like the same 5 Bayern cards that everyone rolls out with. Yeah. So I think the interesting caveat to that is the managers at the top end of the spectrum who are playing super rare, unique, etc., they're going to be accruing the most so rare coins, which are likely to be the thing we need to spend to buy fitness packs. So I think that it's going to be really interesting. In a weird way, I think we're going to see this like disparity between the real like whales of the limited collection world against players who are just good, very good limited players or have good cards. And I think that will be those, like let's say like Ananzo, for example, who maybe can roll out like a sick Bayern team in limited as well if he wants, but he's also like farming coins with the top end of his gallery with those unique collections and stuff like that. So he's earning enough coins from those, which he doesn't really need to spend at unique level for his fitness bonus, but he can just pass that down to his limited and keep that like at 100% all the time at very little cost in terms of like his earning to cost. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to make it simple as possible, but it did make me
think they will.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
No, I was going to say, it made me think that people at the top end of the limited sort of collection structure are going to start pulling away a little bit at the top of the leaderboards from the very good players. It's going to separate the big players from the very good players, I think. I'm not sure yet if that's good or bad, but yeah.
I think they'll do something to like see the now with the power ups to level your card up. You can't just go ham and spend all your coins and throw a guy from 0 to 20 overnight, you know. So I think there will be some sort of obviously they're using this as a revenue stream also in part. So I don't think they're ever going to restrict how many times you can spend money on the site. But I do think they might restrict, like, the player can only receive one every, 10 days, every 5 days, or, whatever they might do. So I think, you will be able to probably take the shortcut by paying with some money, whatever it is, for the rest packs and that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think that will be the only solution. And I don't think that they would allow it to be so overpowered where, again, like that pendulum of money and time, it feels like this is meant to address a little bit of that. And, for somebody who is on a lesser budget playing with any scarcity, this is an extra wee edge that you can kind of get yourself back on versus somebody who might miss a trick, making sure that their fitness is cool and they spend their coins on their physio center rather than on their signed shirt that came into the shop this week or that kind of thing. But with the coins as well, it does come back to that point that they told us, I think it was when it was on Nellis's podcast, that they want coins to be one of the main things people are seeking to win from the game as well. Because again, if coin is the principal way of getting the rest packs, then coins have an extra level of utility, even if you weren't bothered with the club shop in any facet of it whatsoever, because that's an in-game mechanic. It does then, there now is absolutely something for everyone in that shop. From a Sorare, like, looking at a customer perspective, there's a reason that any customer now should be like looking at that shop to go in there, which now means coins are on the menu for everyone in turn, basically. And with that kickoff mode thing, that is like, so we're kind of talking about edges and power plays and stuff like that, right? But this, like, mobile first, we spoke about it last week, how it would probably, by the name of it, kind of lend itself to being like not something that's get the Friday deadline. It's something that's going to be like you're at the pub, the lineup is on the telly, and you're picking your team, you're about to go for it. In their post, and again, you can listen to what Dan says about it. It didn't really say much more on this from memory off the top of my head, but it is going to have rewards in it as well. It is going to have a prize pool of sorts for these different modes. You are going to be able to do head-to-heads. Again, from what Dan said, it's like, like you could just square up to your pals and just have fun with it. It doesn't need to be for prizes or anything. But in the post, it does say use any scarcity of cards, and there will be rewards vectored into it as well. So it will be interesting to see how that runs, because I didn't realize it until Dan was on the show, until Maxime kind of, addressed it as being an elephant in the room almost, that is like a roll and lock game. Then, because you think at a game that runs, for how, and they never really got into the nitty gritty of it, which was the only part of it that they moved away from, where I was like, oh, damn it. But like, is it every game on the SO5 arena can be done with this new mode? Is it going to be marquee games? Is it common cards modes?
Yeah.
That would translate over, or, what is available in terms of the region, if you like, or what is the what's a likely game week going to look like? How many, is it 10 games over the week, or all of them, or 2, or whatever?
That was what I wondered as well, like how easily can you just fire up I wondered, like, is this available for any fixture that's covered, or are they going to go, right, this game's on Sunday, we're opening up Kickoff for it, like, or is it literally like I can sit there and be like, oh, Velez are kicking off against Necaxa in an hour, do you want to like pick a team with your mate? Like, do they dictate what games you can do Kickoff on, or can you do it on any fixture? I think that's quite interesting, because the thing I liked about the idea was, like, how easy it is to just go get your phone out and like pick a team. But if you are still then bound by what fixtures people can do it on, it might slow down some of that potential onboarding of, like, you're at the airport and you sat next to some guy at the airport bar and there's like the game about to kick off on TV. And it's like, oh, you play Sorare, like, pick a team, let's see who wins. Like,
pick a team.
Interesting to see how accessible it is for any given fixture, or if it is like locked to 3 or 4 games over the weekend, maybe like one a day. like you're saying, it's like a daily thing. So you'd expect it to be at least one every day. I don't know. But
Yeah.
did he touch on that much in the update? Was there anything like that given away?
I only caught the show live the one time. I will almost certainly give it a second over, but I haven't. But so yeah, I might be some parts of it might be escaping me, but I think that was kind of the long and short of it. They did speak about some examples and stuff like that, but those things that I mentioned, there was nothing kind of more in that kind of sense.
Was there anything that jumped out to you as like a big glaring point that maybe we didn't pick up on when we read through the update last week? Did he pick up on anything that maybe we got wrong when we were like figuring out what we thought it meant? You know, like how did we were kind of like...
I tell you one thing that caught my attention thinking about it when they brought up season bonus, because ever since I think the Penfez said it, everyone else has went, yeah, that sounds fine by me. The whole 365 day, have a counter down or whatever. And, you know, there was Dan kind of mentioned it in the sense of like, it maybe gets a bit clunky visually for a novice to interact with that potentially. And there was maybe a wee bit of back chat saying like, we kind of have that in the collection side of the game already. I would have kind of argued like, and if you're in the collection game, you are in the game. You're not just like surface level player. You're in the deep end kind of thing at that stage. So I think that's probably a wee bit of justification there. But listening to them as well, I thought, you know what, it's probably the best. You know, even just for this season alone, it's probably the best move to make, because coming into the new season, like now we know at the first game of Kickoff, there is going to be no season XP for any card that any of us own right now. And we will own, it is going to be only the new season ones. So like some of these cheat codes from before that we've all enjoyed to greater and lesser extents, depending on who you talk to, isn't going to be on the leaderboard. And that is also maybe something that can be off-putting when you're kind of brand new and you see like, oh, why is this Zenit team so hard hitting? Like I know Zenit are so good. Oh, because they're all jacked up because of something or other and all the rest of it. It's just maybe something that's a wee bit like, oh, that's a wee bit, it's maybe, I don't know, maybe it just takes a wee bit of that out. And I think, again, kind of similar to what Dan said there, they are definitely after like steady ground to like launch the season with. You know, that's probably why the Saudi Arabia thing is what it is, and all the rest of it. On that note, we did ask last week for interaction on Spotify to the poll we would add into the podcast. And at this point of the show, I'm going to say this week, we thought about what the poll should be, right? So if you're on Spotify, vote, and we'll and drop any comments as well, and we'll bring it up next week, right? But if Kylian Mbappe goes to the Saudi League, does Sorare change their stance? Is what I want. Guys in the live chat can let us know now while we're here, obviously. But if you're on Spotify, I want you to vote on the poll for the show and interact with us over there. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe, and share, and retweet, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. We were having a brief chat, weren't we? Because I think I looked at something popped up. Obviously, he is being linked to Saudi Arabian League, ridiculous amount of money, but then maybe let to go to Real Madrid at the end of next season, which sounds like it's already sort of verbally agreed, maybe between Mbappe's team and Real Madrid. But let's imagine he goes to, is it Al Hilal that are bidding for him? I didn't catch what side it was. I think it was Al Ali or Al Hilal or something like that.
It's the blue team.
Yeah, the blue team, which I think is Al Hilal, the ones that won it, right? They were the same team that Koulibaly went to, and anyway. Obviously, I won an Mbappe in the season, and I had no real intention of letting it go. As we spoke about it on the podcast a while back, it was like, if you're going to sell an Mbappe, the time I won it would have been one of the worst times to sell, near the end of the season, U23 bonuses coming out, etc. If you wanted to sell an Mbappe, my thinking was this beginning of this season would be the time to sell it, compared to when I won it. Anyway, that all taken into account, I did have a little look at his sort of price graph for like this last week or so, where all of these rumors have been floating about. Wondered if any managers were like going to panic sell, try and get rid of him before he goes. But I think my feeling on it is an Mbappe card win is a bit like you either sell it to try and get as much money from it as possible, or you hold on to it forever because it's Mbappe. And, you know, even if I'm losing a year's utility on Mbappe going to Saudi Arabia this season, let's say they don't change their stance on it, which I personally don't think they will, and don't think they should. I think they've made their announcement now. They're just going to have to live with it, even if Mbappe goes. But I can't imagine. I would not want to let go of my Mbappe card because he's losing a year of utility for like this price. Because can you imagine the spike if it does get announced he's going to Madrid next season? Like, it's definitely happening. You know, when he leaves the Saudi league and his red cross disappears. I mean, it'll be a blue one, wouldn't it, if he goes to Al Hilal because they're in the ACL. But yeah, I wonder if anyone else has any different insight. Would you say you're Mbappe if he was going to the Saudi league, or would you just sit tight, sit on your hands? I'd be gutted to lose him, though. I would be. I think he's a big piece in my plans for next season in terms of where I can compete. If he's playing at PSG next season, which he probably won't be, let's be honest, they're going to try and get what they can for him. He is the best forward card to have, barring maybe Neymar, in Champ Euro, I think. So yeah, I think he's a hold for me. What do you think you would do, Quinny, in that situation? Would you try and sell him now before a deal was made, or would you just sit on him for a season?
I think you have to. I don't know personally, especially if it's a reward. I would be sitting firm on it, because I think, like, if you are going to sell it, you can't sell it for something that you regret later on. Like, if you know what I mean, something that isn't, like, if you're, like, again, Hendo, friend of the channel, sold in Mbappe for a wad of money, and I know plenty of people, you know, Tom C, we went in London, and a few other folk, you know, sold in some Mbappes that they've won for like wads. And if you're going to do that, bro, charge on, I think. But if it's, you're not going to get, or even if it's like, I think Mbappe is firmly the card that if you win him, like Monkey, yourself, a few other people have done, I think he is firmly the card that you look to have your cake and eat it with, you know? It's a huge card reward, real power player, makes a difference to anyone's lineup, you know, in PSG and whatever. And, you know, you can always play him for like a month or two, and he's probably going to do pretty well. He'll probably win some stuff, and the relative market value probably isn't going to be wildly different for the most part, you know? So I think this is maybe just one of those ones where it's better to hold through. And I think with Mbappe, it's totally different to Ronaldo when he went, because Ronaldo, you fear he doesn't return. Mbappe, it's the question is it 1 year or 2 years? I don't see him personally going. I don't think he takes any time out of the Champions League. Now that Messi and Ronaldo are gone, he is just going to be looking at their number for top goal scorer in the Champions League, and he is going to be looking to gun that down and win some Champions Leagues now. You know, he's going to think it's Mbappe time. You know, Messi and Ronaldo have moved on. And so that's my personal take. If it means he moves to Saudi Arabia and then maybe receives a loan back into, I don't know, where else could Saudi Arabia loan a player to, Stish? I'm not too sure.
I don't know. I mean, it's suppose like what clubs maybe have ownership. I guess like Newcastle, right? Are they Saudi or is that Qatari? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's Saudi.
So they could buy him and loan him back to Newcastle or something. Like, they're in the Champions League this season. Could you imagine that?
Yeah, I could.
We're just like put the feelers out there, mate. Could you imagine that? Mbappe at Newcastle for a season. I'm gonna call my dad. My dad's a Newcastle fan. I don't want to get him too excited. He doesn't need all that excitement in his life right now. But yeah, I mean,
stranger things have happened, man. You know,
yeah. I mean, do you remember like the Tevez and Mascherano to West Ham? I mean, exactly. What was that all about? Crazy at the time. So yeah, stranger things have happened. Newcastle are a Champions League club with big money ownership, and yeah, probably every given that the links to Mbappe are there, if the Saudi clubs can get their hands on him. Wow, yeah. But I think the reason the offer there is so big is because it's like the draw of having Mbappe in that league. So like the idea of like bringing him to then let him go somewhere else for a year to then sell him to Madrid almost kind of like defeats the object of them owning him for a year at all, because Newcastle were not going to pay more than they're paying to get him in the first place, right? So yeah, I think I'd be baffling if that happened. But like you said, stranger things have happened.
Like this transfer window, man. I've seen Jack Hendry's going to Steven Gerrard's team. So that's a
I
super rare I've got.
I was going to bring that up. I did wonder if you still had that, and that was
Got
a
it.
that was a surprising one for me. I mean, I don't know if that surprised you too much.
Scottish John Stones, let me tell
Yeah,
you.
he's a great player.
So he's a proper blue X card for me now. He will be playing AFC Champions League probably, and he'll be playing for Scotland, and that'll
Yeah,
be it for Mr. Hendry probably for a few years while he goes and makes himself a multi-millionaire. But yeah, that was a defender card. I had kind of mid-range on my depth chart, that's gone. But Bruges have also sold the guy Silla, the guy that really broke out last year. He's went somewhere, I forget where, maybe France. And maybe Boyata then. Maybe Boyata can come into the Bruges team maybe.
yeah, yeah.
So maybe one door opens. I think if Mbappe goes to Saudi Arabia, I think Sorare will cover it, like halfway
Really?
through the season. I think they'll. I said initially before that roadmap came out, I thought they would probably do it after Christmas anyway, and like cover it, and then maybe like roll up to that season starting for the next season, if you get me.
Mm.
And also they've said now definitely not for this season, but I think if Mbappe went, it would probably go back to what I thought it would have been. Probably you'll get Mbappe out there. They'll probably sign another 40 players off the back of that between all the clubs and squads and fill some standard out. They'll then have 10, 15, 20 games before Christmas. There'll be highlight reels everywhere. People saying, oh, is the Saudi division better than the something division? And then we'll get to Christmas and people will just go geese it,
Yeah, yeah. Talking about like transfers, red X's, all of that kind of stuff. I think I messaged you in the week that I've seen a few links for Julian Araujo, who obviously moved from LA Galaxy. I was very excited to be using him in the MLS season this year before Barcelona picked him up, put him in the B team, and we've not seen him since. But there's a lot of links for him to Porto and to Las Palmas, and also now to Feyenoord. And Barcelona have not taken him on their tour, so he's definitely going out on loan as it stands. So
Nice.
I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on that one. Anyone in the chat, any specific transfers that you're really keeping an eye on? We've had some pretty eye-catching transfers, haven't we, this week? I think that be important that we have a little chat about the Wilf Zaha to Galatasaray, because I think that is one of those ones that could create a little bit of what they call it, the transfer kind of a merry-go,
Domino effect.
the domino effect. Obviously, he's moved away from Crystal Palace. That opens up a little bit of a slot there for them to bring a forward player in. I think it's a really good move for him SO5 wise. I think Zaha is going to be a big scoring card in Turkey personally. It also interests me because I hold Yusuf Demir, who's one of those players who just, it's never really quite happened for him. He went to Barcelona for whatever reason, couldn't stay there. Ended up back at Rapid Vienna. Did okay for a bit, then kind of fell out of the pecking order and got injured and couldn't find his way back in. Then he's been loaned over to Galatasaray. I think they might have signed him actually. And like clubs like Roma have come in and said, "Oh, we want first refusal on him." Blah blah blah. But there's talk of him being loaned back into Austria or Belgium soon. Now they've got Wilf Zaha, and they also signed was it Icardi in the week as well? I feel like he's got on a permanent now. So that they also have another player I really like at Galatasaray, Yunus Akgün, who is like 21, 22. He was on loan at Adana Demirspor a couple of seasons back, and he really impressed me. Super quick, wide forward, really good on the ball, great movement off of it. And I thought this kid's going to fly at Galatasaray next season. And then obviously they brought in like Zaniolo, they brought in a few other players. They've done big business this season. Isn't Dzeko there next season as well, right? They've got
Fenerbahce.
That's where we get mixed up. Yeah, okay. But either which way, they've made big signings in the forward department. I do think that Zaha is going to be a great signing for them. But I'd be really intrigued to see what happens to players like Yusuf Demir and Yunus Akgün, because I think Yunus Akgün particularly is a player that if he moves to any club in Turkey, he will be one of the top forward cards in Challenger next season. And, he's got that U23, maybe another season or two. I don't know if anyone else has watched much of him, but I'm super surprised that he hasn't kicked on at Galatasaray. And I hope I'll be really keen to see if he's likely to get a move off the back of this transfer news. But I don't know if you've seen much of him play, or any of those moves have taken any piqued your interest at all, Quinny. Have you been keeping an eye on those transfers, or has anything else happened this week that has caught your eye?
Oh, similar to the Wilf Zaha one, I think Zaha is going to be a top 5 forwards this option this season, as long as he stays fit and actually
Mm.
plays for Galatasaray. I don't see anything that will stop that, really. Another transfer that gave me similar vibes this week was Ismail Assar going
Yeah,
from Watford to Marseille. Ismail Assar played Ligue 1 before, so he knows his way around the league and all that kind of thing. And I think he's quality. He's the sort of player that gets the sort of AA. That means with one decisive, he could break 88 or something like that if it's the good enough game, because he is a dribbler, a guy that's fast. He takes shots. He tries to put people through on goal. Like he's very much a dynamic player. And yeah, so I think that move will be brilliant. The only problem I've got with the whole thing is like Marseille didn't actually hire Marcelo Gallardo, which a lot of people think. I think people think they did. They've actually hired Marcelino, who is like a good manager and stuff like that still, but he's not Tudor, who was really attacking last year, and he's not Gallardo, who would have been quite attacking as well. Marcelino is a wee bit more. He is kind of attacking and stuff like that as well. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not as gung ho as you would maybe think from watching Marseille last year coming into this year. But I think that is a standalone transfer. I think that will be huge. Be a really good champion Euro forward with European with midweeks as well.
yeah.
Alongside the Aubameyang.
Yeah, I'm just looking now on like the sort of news feed and what's been going on today, and I've really another really interesting potential move is Keito Nakamura from Lask to Lille. He has been one of the best challenger / U23 midfielders, hasn't he? At a pretty average Austrian side, and you put him into a club like Lille, who play that fast flowing, attacking, counter-attacking football. That is a really interesting move, I think. I think they've got to make moves, haven't they? Because they've lost a lot of their sort of front line. If they can pick up a few players that can, put the ball in the back of the net and create chances, they'll be exciting to watch. And I liked Nakamura last season. Thought he was great. Didn't see a lot of him, but what I did see was always good. Super lively player, very creative. Lots of final third passes. Lots of passes into the box. And he's got a goal in him or two as well. But yeah, that's an interesting one. There's been some quite interesting moves in and out of Ligue 1, hasn't there? I think this summer. There seems to be some pretty good business done by a lot of the clubs there. Obviously, PSG have brought in an abundance of new players as they do every summer. But
buying half of Belgium and Challenger Europe, all moving into France.
Like the Ismail Assar move, I think is a great one. I think that works. I think that's going to be a really interesting move. And obviously, they've picked up Aubameyang as well, and they're going to be an interesting watch next season. I think Marseille. I don't know what happens to Payet. I saw that he's leaving. Is he retiring or is he?
I think he's just unattached.
I mean, he could be an interesting pickup, couldn't he? For I mean, is he another player that ends up in Saudi Arabia, or is he worth an MLS move? I think I'd love to see Payet in MLS. I think he'd be great over there. Whether or not he will end up there, who knows? But obviously, we've got at Man United lots of links as well. Højlund's still linked, and Amrabat is still sort of being spoken of quite a lot. I feel like this transfer window, this is a really busy transfer window, isn't it? I don't know about you, Quinny, but it doesn't feel to be slowing down anytime soon. And I know we're nowhere near deadline dates yet, and it just feels like we're going to be doing business throughout the next sort of 5 to 6 fixtures into the new season. At this rate, it's not slowing down at all. Like you'd want to have done the bulk of your business by now, but a lot of the clubs are nowhere near finished. Chelsea is still being linked to everyone, aren't they? Literally. They're apparently in the market for Elise at the moment. And
I was going to mention that earlier when you said about Palace and Zaha.
That's
a real link, but I could see that happening.
Yeah. I mean, Man City as well are apparently interested. The two clubs are more intrigued at the moment, trying to figure out how serious his injury is, because he's injured currently. But yeah, I guess that. I mean, who wouldn't want a player like that in their squad who has Premier League pedigree? You know, he's a U23 international for France. He's proven at Palace that he can play against the big teams. He scored goals against the top six. Yeah, I think him in that City squad would just be. I mean, he'd be rotated a lot. That's one thing. And I think he was linked to Arsenal earlier in the window, and he came out publicly and said he's not interested in a move to Arsenal. He wants to play football. He didn't want to join a team where he's going to be in and out of the team again. But yeah, I think that'll be an interesting one to watch unfold over the coming weeks.
I hope Elise stays at Palace, because Odson Edward's been playing a wee bit in pre-season, has been getting some goals. So I'm kind of hopeful that, yeah, but Zaha gone as well. It's a wee bit of less of a headache for Edward, but you still need to keep some good players in the team to feed them some balls and that. So I like Elise a lot. I think he could take the step up with some of these other teams. I think he's really, really good. Definitely not good enough to be like a main guy. Like, I'm thinking about City. He's not going to be like a Mahrez coming in from Leicester or kind of vibes, you know. But yeah, definitely think he's good enough to play for either one of those teams. I think Chelsea's probably the one that happens. You know, I think he's a London boy. I know he's French, but I think he is like a London guy. So I think move to Chelsea and play with Nkunku and Sterling and Pochettino and those kind of guys, it's probably going to be the way he goes.
Be interesting to see that, definitely. In terms of Celtic, you are the man with the plan when it comes to Celtic. What can we expect from Celtic in the sort of the next few weeks in this transfer window? Do you think that they sign more players? Do you think they move any more on?
I don't know, mate. It's really hard to judge because, you know, but there's been like 4 or 5 transfers and they're all kind of okay guys. It would be nice to have a card for and that, but none of them at first glance, I don't think, like maybe the centre back that's came in will probably displace Carl Starfelt as the early feelings amongst the Celtic fan base when they see that. Nawrocki signed from Legia Warsaw. Maybe Hyunjin young player of the year in Korea or something like that. So and we've still got Iwata to kind of get a kick of the ball. He was J League player of the year when we bought him. So I don't know. The squad feels pretty good, and it does feel like it's missing like a big piece. So I find it really difficult to tell people it's safe to buy Joe Hart still, because really, like, you just never know. They might just announce a goalkeeper tomorrow. So that's the main question I'm still getting, is about Joe Hart. And it's one of those ones where it's like, until the window closes, no one can be confident about that. Yeah. I think Daizen Maeda's on for a big season.
Yes.
But Kyogo's hurt his shoulder, and we need to kind of wait and see what's going to happen with that. The manager said he needs surgery to fix this problem, but he's got some sort of problem where his shoulder keeps popping when he falls badly. So it's like he doesn't need surgery, but he needs surgery to fix it, kind of vibe. So it's up to him and everyone whether it's fine to charge on or what he's going to do. So I think he'll be probably fine for the beginning of the season, but it's definitely something to think about and watch out for throughout the season.
Did you get a chance to watch the friendly against Gamba in
I did.
the week? And what did you make of that? Of anything? Do you think any of the Gamba players put enough about themselves to get a little move to Europe or even to Celtic? Who were the star performers in that game?
Tani really? Was the best. Tani.
You're just saying
wildly biased. No, I'm wildly biased, but Tani was good. Like, you know, at half time it was 0-0, and he saved, like, you know, it's probably like XG shots expected thing. You know, those metrics would have been very good. Passed the ball well, point blank double saves and stuff like that. Like, he did okay. Had like 4 or 5 serious actions in the half against like Daizen Maeda and Abada. You know, so he was really good. Again, people have listened to my content on Sorare for a while will maybe know this guy's name, but it was great watching Ryu Takao. He's like a defender for Gamba, and I won his rare like forever ago, and he was in my gallery forever. It's just he was like the last defender to ever go into a team every week. You know, when you used to be able to get teams out everywhere all the time, and it would just be like, you know, exact layouts and stuff like that. Anyway, so it was good seeing him. He played centre back, and he really he was playing at like a cup final with Ryo Takao. So it was seeing Tani, Takao, and then even seeing like Usame, Wanalano, a few of those guys that I've seen a few times play. Machino, and then somebody came off the bench as well. I forget who it was now.
I love the Wanalano shout. He was one of the sort of first random players that I kind of picked up on Sorare who went on an absolute tear for me in the early days on the platform. When he was at Antlers, I had his card, and he was just like one of the top cards in my gallery for a while. And then he got injured and never really found his way back into the starting lineup. And then he got moved on, and he's never like, he'll always be one of them players that I'll always remember him as like one of my first like proper like legends of my gallery for a few months. He definitely won me a few rewards, but yeah, it's not a name I hear that often anymore. So it's good to hear he's still rocking and doing the biz against Celtic, it sounds like. Do you think any of them, did anything happen after? Is there any links to any of the players? Do you think Tanny put himself in the shop window? Did he
I
not?
think that was the whole point in playing, was the shop window, because he's getting linked to bloody Belgium Division 2 now, and it's like, come on, man. This surely isn't the best place or the only place he could go. It feels like El Tanaka going to Dusseldorf again. It's like, who's this guy's agent? Like, who are they actually telling he's available? Because surely, like, clubs in Austria, Croatia, there's tons of decent SO5 clubs that could take him. Why does he need to go to Belgium D2 to get a game? It's mental.
You and I
Portugal,
are like
anything.
we are like the Tanny pump room over here, aren't we? Because we both holders and that we just want to see him do well. We don't want to see a red X on Tanny at all. So yeah, like I'll take any move away from the Belgian second division. Someone in the chat just mentioned that as well, actually. And big up Free Tip Scout, who's just raided our stream with his viewer base. So we've got a few new faces in here. Welcome if you're new. Yeah, there was definitely a shout in here. I think Don of Sorare is here as well. We've definitely got a few heads in. This must be all of the raiders firing their way in. So yeah, welcome. We've got a little raid going on. But yeah, Tanny, I'd love to see him get a move. I mean, if he played that well in the game against Celtic as well, do you think there's any chance of him like working his way back into the starting lineup at Gamba? Or do you think that Higashiguchi has just kind of taken his opportunity and really, because he hasn't, from what I've seen, he hasn't really made any big errors since getting his position back in the starting lineup. So I think Tanny's going to find it difficult to work his way back into that starting lineup, shy of Higashiguchi picking up a nasty injury or something.
Yeah, it feels like Gamba, and I'm not really that close to it, but it does feel like they've kind of been treating Tanny as an asset, loan him out to Shonan, make sure he's in the window, getting minutes, develop for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
To then bring him back, but they play 4 matches or something like that, and now it's nothing, So I think they just see him as an asset, and I think they're probably a bit gutted that Zion Suzuki is the one that's been linked to Man United and not Tanny. But in saying that, like, how can Suzuki get that quality of attention? And Tanny can
a great deal of first team football. He's a cup goalkeeper for Urawa, so it's like really. Yeah, it was surprising. I've only seen bits of Zion Suzuki, and he does look a good goalkeeper, but I don't like. He's not going to play minutes for Man United, not even in the cup. I think
he'll play League Cup.
He'll
definitely play League Cup.
I'd be surprised if he even did that. I feel like that's a Heaton situation for Man United potentially, but yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe Suzuki would get loaned back out. He'd be like become like one of those sort of like, let's see if he like makes it type things. But the idea of Man United, Onana's not going to be dislodged for years now. It's yeah. So people are saying that Heaton's apparently on his way to Luton, which makes sense as well, because I've been following in terms of Luton as well. I'm a Thomas Kaminsky holder, and I've been weighing up, do I get rid of him? Like, I don't want the Luton goalkeeper in my lineups next season. They are not. That is just asking for like a -15 all-around score all day long. I'm not expecting Luton to do anything this season. I'm going to say that, and they're going to win the first game or something like that. But yeah, I think the Luton goalkeeper will be the cheapest Champ Euro goalkeeper going next season. I can't see them. There'll be games they can see double figures, I think, in the Premier League. Yeah, I mean, unless they do a Leicester and shock everyone, but that would be the biggest shock. But yeah, in terms of other bits and bobs going on in the transfer market, one of the other interesting things that piqued my interest, because this was a player I was thinking of picking up for both for like SO5 reasons, but also for collection bonus, because I've got other players from this team in Super Rare. was Arsene Zakarian of Dynamo Moscow.
Ooh.
He is linked heavily right now. Apparently, Lazio in advanced talks to sign him. They're looking at around 15 million, which I think is going to get swatted away by Dynamo Moscow because they rate him a lot higher than that. They seem to be quite tight as well. Anyone that comes in for any of their players is like, no, we want 50 million for that player. And Zakarian's definitely one of those, isn't he? But I feel like maybe he's into the last year of his contract this year. So makes sense. Great player, fantastic SO5 scorer. I think he fits straight into that Milinkovic-Savic role. Maybe not quite. Obviously, he's not quite as robust as him. He's a lot younger. He's a lot quicker. But yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting development in the transfer market, and I think there'll be a lot of SO5 players. Keep an eye on that one because I don't think that hurts his SO5. What do you think? When if anything, he's going to get more utility. He's going to get more, he's going to get more covered matches. And he could he be the next Kvaratskhelia in that division? He's a similar kind of style of player, isn't he?
I was going to say in that Lazio team, he has to be playing probably wide forward. I think, off of Castellanos or Immobile. Or I even said maybe Castellanos could play wide forward. So it could be, I know Zakagny did really good last year, but it could be like a front three of like Immobile, Tate, and Zakarian. And that just screams counter-attack and kill people, like kind of thing, I think Zakarian will do very well in Italy, and I will be very motivated to buy a Zakarian Lazio card. I think I had a Zakarian limited. I was very attached to him, a big fan of him. Just never had him back in the gallery or whatever, and I've not really been touching Russia for a while, obviously.
I definitely tried a few offers in for his super rares over summer in the hope that like some of the managers who've just been holding on to him for ages are like maybe not as interested in the product anymore, or just like maybe selling their galleries and stuff. But nah, no bites at all. And I came in with what I felt was a fair pricing based on his like rare cards and stuff. But I mean, if he does go to Lazio, I would be double happy because I'd still be keen on picking up one of his Dynamo super rares to pair with that Chukovin one that I've got, who
nice.
I think Chukovin will become like the guy this season. I think he's going to be their top forward. Dynamo Moscow looked pretty good in pre-season from what I saw as well. So, yeah, Zakarian, even at Lazio. And you mentioned as well there, Castellanos. I forgot about that move. I think that's another good move, right? Really excited for him in the Italian league. I think he'll find it a bit easier than he did in La Liga. I don't know about you, but you've watched Tati in numerous sides he's played for. I've been a holder. I won his card many moons ago, and I've just never sold it. The time to sell it would have been when I won it. He was kind of like sitting on about 2 ETH, I think, when I won him. But he's probably worth about a tenth for that now. But excited to see him in Serie A. I think it's a great move for him. I think he did really well at Girona last season. I don't know about you, but he definitely he made a good case for himself in Europe, at least in a Girona side who weren't steamrolling too many people, but managed to score 4 goals in a game against Real Madrid. I mean, talk about put your name like in the hat for the end of the season. And I think Lazio is a good move for him. What do you reckon?
I know, I totally agree as well. Like Tate went up in my estimations for this year, making that move. Again, a lot of people think he's either just going to play as a super sub for Immobile, or he's only going to start if Immobile leaves. But I don't see it that way at all. Like, I think Tate, especially the way Sarri plays, like if you've seen Sarri when he's in the Premier League, it's not really any different. He doesn't, he's not really invented himself in that sense. He's just getting players that work the system, and it's, a tight midfield three that go box to box, do a bit of everything. The one wee guy that controls everything, the wee Jorginho guy.
Yeah.
And then your front three, pace, guys that can finish, and then a striker up top that's, again, a bit of a bulldozer guy that will charge through and can make things happen. And Castellanos can play, for me, in any of those front three positions for Sarri. So I think he won't struggle for minutes in Italy, personally. He might be better off SO5 wise if he's on the left than on the right, or that kind of thing could still happen. Don't get me wrong, but I think he plays.
I do as well. I'm excited to see him play. I'm really looking for. I think I'm looking forward to Serie A restarting a lot more this season than previous ones, and I think a lot of that is down to some of the good business that's been done by these clubs. And yeah, I think Tati Castellanos is definitely going to be one of the most interesting ones for me. I'm really excited to see him play there. Yeah, and if Zakarian moves as well, yeah, it looks like Osherman's going to stay now, doesn't it, at Napoli? I don't think he's looking like he's going to move, which I'm a little bit gutted about from an SO5 perspective because I won Raspadori just before the season ended, and I was thinking if Osherman moves, he's going to step right in. And but yeah, like sort of following up on a lot of like Napoli accounts, and people are expecting him to still play a big part this season, so he might get a bit of SO5 utility out of him. Is there anyone in your gallery, Quinn? If there's one card this season you expect to be most improved player in your gallery, who is it and why?
Ooh, what a shout. Most improved. That's easy. It's got it. There's definitely going to be Angelino, because it was okay at Hoffenheim last year, but it was not reliable and not fun to play. And I think this year, like, it's just, I think as soon as I see the first 80+ score come in from him, I'll just feel so good. And then I think he's probably on for being my tip for most improved player this season in my gallery, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked the question, but I haven't thought about my own answer to it. Probably the easiest way to look at this is going to be Sorare data and having a little look at my gallery and trying to figure out who have I got big hopes for this season. That Connor Cody could be a really good one next season. Actually, one that I picked up that is a proper wild card, but Fabio Gomez or Fabio Blanco, who moved from Barcelona's B team to Villarreal's B team. I picked up his only super rare on the platform. Obviously, we don't normally get Villarreal B mints. Like sometimes you'll get it if they mint a few extra cards from the first team. But yeah, I've got a rare and a super of his. I picked up his rare when he moved to Barca B. When I seen some YouTube clips of him and playing for the Spanish under-21 team. And I think if he can turn on the style at Villarreal B and get his career back on track, he could definitely be the card I've waited for to just like have his moment and explode in the gallery. So yeah, I think that's got to be the one I'm definitely like I've got the high hopes for that one because it can't be much worse than he was, like going from pretty much like a red X to a potential starter. He started the last couple of friendlies. Yeah, fingers crossed for him. He's a real barnstorming attacking centre mid. Can play as a wide forward, can play pretty much like across that front line and just behind it. And if he can find himself in that kind of like false 9, number 10 role, he's going to be super exciting to watch. And if he can nail a starting place down, I think we're going to see big scores from him SO5 wise. So fingers crossed for that. He is probably the one in my gallery I'm hoping for. But big mentions to Conan Jocelyn Endry, who we spoke about on the podcast before. He did get his move. I think he was linked initially to like Lille. That didn't happen, but he has moved to a better club in the Belgian division. He's gone to OH Leuven. And I think that's a good move for him. So he'll be an interesting watch this season because I think, he played pretty well in a struggling Eupen side last season. And I think he's gonna be in a better team. So yeah, I have all eyes on him. Super excited for all of these seasons to start opening up. I think we've got Belgium this weekend, haven't we? Anyone of interest in your gallery this weekend playing in that Belgian division, Quinny?
Nah, none of that stuff. I was just more thinking about just with the last kind of train of thought where we're leaving behind. We've got the Messi card obviously now out at Inter Miami, which came out the other day, and Busquets' card isn't too far behind. Jordi Alba will probably get a card. Iniesta is signed for Inter Miami.
What?
And
I missed that.
Iniesta signed. Yep. And El Pistolero, Luis Suarez, is heavily linked.
I've seen that. Yes.
So what I was going to say, Stish, is how many people buy an Inter Miami Barcelona stack when it comes out just for the good old days? So you'd have Alba, Busquets, Iniesta, Messi, Suarez. Obviously, you can't play all of them in the one team, but
That's fun though, isn't it? That is fun.
that's good fun.
That is good fun. If you need an excuse to watch a bit of MLS, pick that up. I mean, you probably need a few quid at the minute. Did you see the price of the first Messi cards to go yesterday? I mean, the spike is enormous on them, but I think YNWA won the rare or the limited number one. I think it was the limited one. But yeah, I think, pure collectability. Messi's first mint in his new kit.
Half as well for the limited, bought by Cortman.
Crazy money for a limited. I mean, it wasn't crazy when they launched, was it? When you look back at like the prices of some of those limiteds, and I'm guilty of buying some as well at those sort of times. But I think limiteds feel like they're at the price they were supposed to be now. Right, this is like, for me, like where like the absolute top end of limiteds are like 200 quid. I think that's what they were aiming for, right, when they kind of started this. And I think they were launched probably at the peak of the bull market, everyone being super excited about the product, and a lot of the whales just like scooped up and got bidding against each other for those low mints. And I didn't think I'd get sucked into the limiteds, but I did eventually. And now I've got so many bad limiteds as well. Like, but
I just seen there's a good question come in from the chat there, Stishy boy. Sorry. Question you always wanted to ask, Quincy. I guess that's me. How do you think Celtic would rank in the Bundesliga? I think Celtic would probably finish like maybe last season's Bundesliga. I think Celtic would have probably came 4th or something. I think last season under Postecoglou would have been right in amongst that, because last season the Bundesliga was wide open. Generally, I don't think if you just took a Celtic team out of any given season and put them in the Bundesliga, like going back further and beyond, then probably wouldn't do that good. But I think Celtic standards just came up. The Bundesliga's maybe kind of waned a little bit in terms of like proper star top end power. The full league but is comprehensively good, obviously, like the standard. And maybe this coming season, I'd fancy our chances to be a top 4, top 6 side, maybe. So again, what you've got to think is, see when I'm answering this question, I've also got to imagine that we are in that division and we would probably spend an extra 30 million on what we've actually spent, which then you're in the Bundesliga, not Scotland, so you could actually maybe get your number 1 target and not your number 4 target.
True.
So yeah, I think quite thoroughly that's probably where we would kind of lie. Sorry, Stish, I just seen that. It made me laugh. And because there was a great shout here as well from Glenn Hoddle saying that there's Lazio v Udinese today at 3 on YouTube, I guess. And that's a friendly. So we can go and do a bit of scouting later.
Udinese. Yeah, we can watch Sesko and Javi Simons up front. I mean, that's going to be fun, isn't it, to watch this season? RB Leipzig. What do you reckon, Quinny? Where do they finish this season?
I think Leipzig are hard, because it's like I put a tweet out about the whole Xavi Simons thing when it happened, and like he's thoroughly good enough to start in a Leipzig team most of the time, if you get me. But in my experience of watching Leipzig and the players they sign, the players they loan, etc., they've never became reliant on players they've loaned. They've loaned a few, and all the players that they loan in that they don't have options to buy, I don't know, you just don't always see them feature too regularly. Now, I think if there's going to be an exception to the rule, this is probably going to be the case. But I equally wouldn't, if anyone is upset when he starts missing matches or whatever out the blue, don't be, because it probably will happen, is what I would say. But I think Germany will probably suit him really well. And then that Leipzig philosophy, if he can like find himself in it, he should get plenty of opportunities to score and assist and do his thing. I don't think Sesko's going to feature much this season. I think he will be super sub 15-20 minutes a game.
Yeah, I'm half expecting that too, as a holder as well, which is gutting, but it is what it is. Hopefully I can get some use out of him next season when Van der Voort goes there as well, and we can start piecing together a little stack, little U23, like the last days of U23 for a lot of those cards. But Van der Voort, we're still waiting to see what goes on with Guardiola, don't we? So I think that will be a big key part.
I think that deal is about to happen, but Leipzig just got a bit butthurt that Fabrizio Romano knew the details and leaked it, and now they've just stopped answering phone calls from Man City But I think they'll probably leave it a week and then just phone them up and go, right, do the deal. And then it's like, I think they want it to be secret. I think they don't want to feel like people are, like ridiculing them somehow or disrespecting them or something, I guess. I don't know. But I think it'll still go through. It's just a matter of pride and saving face at this point, I think.
I feel you on that, mate. I feel you on that. So yeah, I mean, we've got through a lot of bits this week. I've just seen like the running time. We've gone big again, Quinny. It's been another bumper episode. We've been chatting away here, but yeah, it's been fantastic sitting here. I know like we've been a bit early this week, so big shout out to everyone who's been in the chat. But is there anything we haven't touched on, Quinny, that we were going to at this point? Can you think of anything?
I think in terms of the little notes I had, I think that was kind of everything. And we've just kind of spoke about lots of stuff that's just brilliant anyway, in preparations for the season, because Celtic are going to be opening their campaign in like 10 days or something like that from now, maybe 12 days. I forget what it is on the calendar, but the season is round the corner, so yeah, it's like 10 days long.
Then you'll be extremely buzzing for the weekend coming, that next time we're on live, which will probably be a week on Thursday, I'd imagine.
Yes.
Early. Yeah, so you and I are both away the weekend. That's why we're coming early, right? What are you up to the weekend? Anything you can lift?
I'm at the Sorare Sevens event, so I'll be there playing sevens and doing a podcast there. I think Haber will be there, and there'll be a bunch of people from the community and stuff. So I think it's Saturday, but I've also got a little family trip, so I did promise some time away from work for a few days. So we're going to be tagging on to doing some stuff for the kids and all that. We were going to be down in England anyway, so a bit of a week out of Glasgow for me. But there's plenty of content programmed out on the channel. Obviously, anyone that's watched this on the channel, you'll see that. So it's going to be a really busy week, and then we're going to come back to it, and it's just going to be right into the deep end, full SPFL season on the go.
Absolutely. And I'm off to Spain, and then I'm off to Croatia, so I've got a busy few days. I think we go Marbella tomorrow till like Friday night, get home, fly straight to Croatia Saturday morning, and back on Tuesday, and then back on End Product on Thursday to talk about it, or hopefully with a bit more of a suntan. And depending on the time I get off in Croatia, I might even try and catch a game out there. So that'll be fun. Try and get myself to a game. I have to have a little look at where I am on the map. But as Quinny mentioned earlier as well, anyone listening to this on Spotify particularly, there is now an option to partake in a poll, which Quinny's going to add. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, have a little look in the app and see if you can give us a little vote. And we will, I guess, talk about the results of said vote on next week's episode, which is likely to be on Thursday. So Quinny, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure, never a chore. Everyone in the chat, big shout out to Free Tip Scout for raiding us. I think it's our first Twitch raid during the End Product podcast. So if you are new to Twitch, do give me a little follow on here, and then you'll be notified when we go live. It tends to only go live for End Product. I'm not much of a Twitch streamer these days, so it tends to be mine and Quinny's channel more than it does my own these days. But it's great to have you on. Quinny, have a fantastic weekend, sir, and I will see you bright and early this sort of lunchtime next Thursday.
Have a good one, mate. Good luck.
Cheers all.